Babusok Kamath Memorial Lecture. Speaker Mr. Kapil Kane. Subject: The Zen Philosophy of Product Design. How to design great products and innovate fearlessly. Mr. Kapil Kane, the Director of Innovation at Intel, spearheads the discovery, incubation, and launch of cutting-edge technologies. He played a pivotal role in designing and launching iconic products at Apple, including the first multi-touch screen, iPod, MacBook, iMac, and the iPad. Kapil actively advises startups, accelerators, universities, and NGOs globally, showcasing his profound expertise in technology, design, and innovation. His contributions at Intel are highlighted in a widely recognized case study taught in MBA classes at SEABS. His insights on corporate innovation have earned him acclaim in esteemed academic publications such as MIT and Harvard, and have been featured in best-selling books like Gorillas Can Dance. Born and raised in Margao, Goa, Kapil pursued his education at the National Institute of Technology, Karnataka, and Stanford University. After completing his master's in mechanical engineering and design, he worked at companies like Apple in Cupertino before returning to Asia, and has been residing in Shanghai, China with his family for the last 16 years. Kapil's journey from the serene shores of Goa to the forefront of global innovation reflects his diverse and impactful career trajectory. In an era marked by rapid technological evolution, his work underscores the necessity of fostering creativity and forward-thinking solutions. He actively engages with startups, accelerators, and educational institutions to inspire a new generation of innovators. Kapil's dedication to the nexus of technology, design, and innovation serves as a testament to the idea that pioneering advancements are not just about corporate success, but essential for the collective betterment and resilience of humanity.
So this talk, is based on my first-hand experience working at Apple for close to a decade with Steve Jobs personally, with Jonathan Ive, and many other talented engineers and designers. Also, more than a decade of working at Intel trying to drive innovations. And I'd like to distill all my learnings from these two very different kinds of companies into a design philosophy. And the topic of this talk is the Zen philosophy of product design, how to design great products and innovate fearlessly. And so when you think of Zen, it invokes imageries like perfectly manicured Japanese gardens, peace, tranquility. And until recently, I held this belief, that Apple's design philosophy was just what I was saying was that, when you think of Apple's design philosophy and the Zen that I just talked about, people think that it's more about aesthetics. It's partly true. But it actually goes, much more beyond that. And it took me, more than 20 years to realize this, or even just to begin to realize this. And actually by an accident, like two years ago, like 2 summers ago, I was hiking in the Meili snow mountains in the western China at the border of Tibet. And I saw a sign that said it's the meditation cave of an Indian sounding monk. And so I went to explore that cave, and upon reaching the cave, I found out that this cave was the meditation cave of someone called Padmasambhava. And he's known as the founder of Tibetan Buddhism, and he traveled across the Himalayas to spread the Buddhist philosophy from India to the Far East. And this got me really interested in studying Buddhism, like still at a surface level, not very deep. And in Buddhism, There are three main schools of thought, and Zen belongs to the school called Mahayana Buddhism, which is practiced in China and in Japan. And Steve Jobs was highly influenced by Zen Buddhism. He had a Japanese Zen master in California, and Zen shaped his approach to life as well as design. And so what is Zen, right? I think we heard this word Zen, but Zen actually is the Japanese pronunciation of the word Chan from Chinese, and Chan in Chinese means Dhyan from Sanskrit. So it comes from the word meditation. But Zen is not just about meditating in the serene Zendos, it's also about learning the sutras. And one of the most important sutra of Mahayana Buddhism, which Zen belongs to, is called the Mahaprajna Paramita Sutra, or the great book of perfecting wisdoms. And in this sutra, they talk about 6 wisdoms that one needs to perfect in order to achieve nirvana or singularity or oneness or nothingness, as the Buddhists, think of it. And these 6 wisdoms are, the first one of them is generosity or dana, ethics or sila, effort or virya, not you virya, concentration or dhyana, patience or shanti, and wisdom or prajna. Some of these words are Pali, so I don't think it's a direct Sanskrit translation. So don't be hung up on these words. Just think about what it means. And understanding and practice of these 6 wisdoms in the context of design is what I'm going to explain today in my Zen philosophy of product design. So the first wisdom is generosity. And generosity of product design is having a noble cause for creating your product in the first place. It's not about jumping on the latest technology bandwagons or launching the clones of successful startups in a lucrative market, but you need to have a really noble why for creating the product that transcends any material desire. When it came to iPod, the vision we had was to create a product that would let you carry 1,000 songs in your pocket. Steve Jobs was a huge admirer of music, and this idea that you could carry your entire music library with you, he thought, that everyone should have this experience. And he wanted that experience to be the best experience that we could deliver. And that's the goal for creating the iPod in the first place. In my current job at Intel, I go through hundreds of product proposals and business plans from our employees, from our startups. And more often than not, what I find that they are driven by where the technology is going or where the investments are happening, and not from an honest desire to solve a pressing issue or a goal that goes beyond there's money to be made here. They sprinkle buzzwords like AI, ChatGPT, AR, VR, and so on. One of the things is like all these buzzwords we see today, they are just technologies. Technologies are just the tools. They are just a means, not an end. It's like having a hammer. If you have a hammer, every problem seems like a nail, and you try to hit that nail with that hammer. So when you don't have a strong why, what happens? It's easy for you to abandon your goal, or it's easily you will build substandard product or a compromised company, or even an unfulfilling career if you're not choosing things for the right reason. Right? Talking about the career, I like to share my dilemma I had when, at the very beginning of my career, when I was in grade 12, I was in Chowgule College, and I secured the second highest score in that PCM stream in Goa. And what it meant was I could get into any top computer engineering program across the network of National Institutes of Technology in India. It was because of companies like Infosys, Wipro. Programming was really cool and really happening at that time. And so I was advised by everyone I went to go take up computer engineering. But I always liked to play with the physical things, physical products, something I could touch and feel, something tangible. And so I took up mechanical engineering at National Institute of Technology, Surathkal. Then, in the first year, I scored the highest marks in Surathkal. And there is this tradition that I think the top 10 in the first year, they get a chance to change their branch. And I was advised, actually my parents were called to Surathkal, and our principal was trying to counsel them as well as me that I should give up mechanical engineering and join computer science, saying it was a very lucrative field. And I still refused to do that. I was, to me, I really, loved, to work with machines and engines and stuff. I had no interest in programming. Then, the things went on, and it was in the final year, and we have campus placements. And what happens in the campus placements is the big shot companies come in, and then they pick up, all the bright kids from all different branches. And even then I avoided temptation to take up a job that would pay 2 to 3 times what mechanical engineers would get in order to code. So I knew in my heart, that I could either be a great mechanical engineer or I could have been an average software developer. And I chose to stick to what I thought I could be best in. So be it a career, a company, or a product, find your true calling. It could be software engineering as well. So whatever it is, I'm not saying software engineering is bad. I see Gajesh, smiling there. Yeah, so basically you find your true calling and give it your all. Don't worry, about the payoff. Do it for the right reasons. So that's the first, the wisdom of product design that you can apply to, companies, schools, whatever, career. And once you have a noble cause or a product vision, it's important to have the ethics to turn that vision into reality. And ethics, or sila, is the second wisdom of the Zen philosophy of product design. And ethics, is how you make decisions on a day-to-day basis about your product, your guiding principles on how you conduct your business. At Apple, every little design element was very, very well thought of. It was a result of endless prototyping, thorough analysis, elaborate experimentation. Nothing was random. Every shape, feature, color, size, everything had a reason to exist and be that particular way. Even the color and finish of all our products were carefully chosen after creating hundreds of mock-ups and prototypes. The things that may seem trivial to 99.999% of the people were fretted upon. Not only that, we designed the insides of the product as well as we did the outside. And this is something that Steve Jobs brought to the culture. And the reason behind this, when he was a kid, Steve Jobs' father would make him paint the fence. And he would insist that the fence should be painted on the inside as good as the fence would be painted on the outside. And when Steve Jobs would protest, but Dad, no one knows what it looks like on the inside, and he would answer, you and I know. And that's the kind of attention to details and ethics we had at Apple when designing the products. And Sir Jonathan Ive, the famous chief design officer at Apple, who was also Steve Jobs' soulmate, he would take that even further. and applied it not just how we design products, but also how we manufactured them. And to give you a sense, in it was about 2010 when we were developing the iPad. I was walking Johnny through the factory where the iPad's body was being developed. And the iPad body, it starts off as a chunk of aluminum, and then we have computerized cutters that cut the shape in different cuts. And at the very end, there is a step which is where we use like a sandpaper like material to smooth off all the cutter marks that have been created by the cutter. It's just like how an artisan would chisel the stone or carve the wood and in the end polish. And so there was this robot who was polishing the iPad cover, and Johnny just stood there for I think 15-20 minutes just watching what's going on. And he remarked to me and he said, "This is wrong. This is not how an artisan would polish something. This is too systematic. Artisan would use very random strokes and he would randomly rotate the parts. Can we make the robot do the same thing?" And I think if anyone is in the manufacturing, we would know that this is adds complexity, adds time, adds cost, and we didn't even know it could be done. But I immediately said, yes, we can do it. We will send you a sample. The thing is that there was an unwritten rule at Apple that you could not say no to Johnny or his team. It was a sure shot way of getting sidelined from important projects or even get fired. We did not care about our opinion. To me, I knew how much either you could manufacture in a very regular motion or like an artisan, the end result would be the same. But we had to prove it through data by building samples. We did not care about our past experiences, expertise. Everyone had to actually build things, measure things, and show things, right? And so we had this saying there. It said, "We, in God we trust. Everyone else, please bring data." So for every decision, we had to back it up by data, by putting actually in the hard work. It doesn't matter what your expertise is. Yeah, data talks. We were as obsessed with designing and manufacturing our products as we were trying to figure out how we could break them. So we would come up with crazy tests. We would look at real life scenarios and try to see how people would use our products or misuse our products, and we would subject our products to batteries of tests that could mimic this everyday use case. There's a guy called Doug Field. He was at that time, he was the VP of our product design, who later went on to lead design and manufacturing team at Tesla. And he used to tell us that you are not your design. Your job is to break your design in as many ways as possible, as soon as possible. Sooner you find problems, sooner you can fix them. So what it meant was, don't be too emotionally attached to what you're building, and don't try to just save it, because of that emotional attachment. Try to make the best design possible and find all the issues as soon as possible. So when you buy an Apple product, you can be rest assured that every feature is thoroughly thought through. Every little detail is designed with great care and effort. Be it your design, your career, you need to set ethical standards and never compromise, even if it takes huge losses or suffer great setbacks. Now, to hold yourself to such high ethics requires inhuman amounts of effort. Effort, or virya, is the third wisdom of Zen philosophy. nothing worth doing is ever easy, right? And if you want to build great products and put a dent in the universe, like how Steve Jobs used to say, the effort it takes are astronomical. Every product idea at Apple, they start with physical mock-ups and not on PowerPoint presentations. At any given time, we would have dozens and dozens of prototypes in our labs. And Steve Jobs, Johnny Ives, and the heads of engineering, marketing, they would periodically, they would go through all these mock-ups, and then engineering would take over to investigate further. Engineering team would then engineer the product and try to basically fit all the technologies within the envelope given to them in the design. And this, back and forth would keep happening. The designing and building went hand in hand. And for some products, it might take a couple of months to get from the lab to the stage where it can become a product. And for some, it could take years. Now, once it is decided that such a product has to be made, it would go on a product roadmap. I think you guys know all this, about product roadmap. And once a product is on a product roadmap, what it means is you will create a company-wide team to work on that project. And this project would go through many cycles, or many phases, I would say. The first phase we would call engineering validation, where we would see, can this product, can it be even engineered? And the next phase would be the design verification phase, where we would see, can this engineered product, can it meet all our design requirements? And finally, the third phase would be where we validate if this product could be manufactured at scale. And each of these builds, we would build hundreds and hundreds. We would start from dozens, then hundreds, and then thousands. And some of these phases would have lots of multiple builds. So there was a lot of building. And what this meant was that Apple people would be all over Asia. We would have parts coming from Japan, Taiwan, Thailand, and maybe they would be shipped in the end to Shanghai or Shenzhen. And at any given time, you would have hundreds of Apple engineers just being in China. And there used to be a flight from San Francisco to Shanghai, and every time I would take that flight, there would be at least a dozen of my colleagues on the flight. So every day, there was so many people from Apple would be there in India. China. Hopefully in India now. And what it meant was also that we had to spend long hours at the factory, eat the factory canteen food. People would dread going to China for this build because the days were long and there was no way to get a single day off. And so we had this saying, and we even got it printed on our T-shirt, and it said, in China, every day is a Wednesday. So what it meant was, last weekend was so long ago, and your next weekend is still very, very far away. Don't expect to have a single day off in China. And every product designer had to go to China, 4 to 6 times a year at the minimum, because if you are not there, seeing your product being built, you wouldn't know how badly you are designing your products and fix them, right? And eventually, we put together a full-time product design team in China, and I was one of the first 5 employees to join that team. Now, back at the headquarters in California, it was not by any stretch of the imagination like a walk in the park. There was this sense of urgency, and for during the time I was in California, I was still very young, just graduated from school. So we would be given tasks, and if we asked, when do you need this by, the answer would always be yesterday, yeah. Or they would say, Johnny asked for it, or Steve Jobs wants to say, So there is no way, you can escape anything. Everything, had to be done like today or yesterday, right? So there are many tricks people use, throwing names, but it's true. if you can find an answer now, don't wait for tomorrow. Why wait for tomorrow, right? And I remember, like in my early days at Apple, I used to do a lot of this architecture and prototyping. So I would design a lot of parts, send it off to our model shop, and then I would go there almost every day to pick up my parts. And there's this guy, Tony Graham, he used to run our labs. And he asked me, why you need so many parts? Why you come here every day, And so I said, because Johnny wants to see all these different design options. And he's like, Johnny, you kids, he asks you to jump and you ask how high. And but it's not us, everyone down the chain, they wanted to be Olympic high jumpers, to impress Johnny and Steve. And everyone in the company had that enthusiasm to do it. So when it comes to your product or your startup, it's not the idea really that matters, but what you do with the idea, how much effort you put in, how you shape it, how you move forward. All this requires great amount of effort. As they say, ideas are dime a dozen, right? What you do with it is what really matters. And what really, you think if you have an idea now, I have a few startup founders here in the front row. So I think if you have an idea, right, there are 100 other people, they have the same idea. So what would set you apart from them is how much effort you put in it and how you move it forward. So just by, sitting on the idea, nothing is going to happen, right? So I think that's the reason, I think effort is really important in whatever you do, be it, your product, company, career, or anything. It's really about the effort you put in. Now, in the context again of product design, directing your effort in the right direction requires focus, and this focus or the concentration or the dhyana is the fourth wisdom I would like to talk about. With so much going on around you, how can you keep your talent focused? And at Apple, we had this thing, need to know policy. I think it's common in all the corporates. But it gave us just the right amount of information to effectively get our job done. We had project codes, for example, K93, Q79, M42, and only the people who were assigned to the project knew what actually it meant and what it is, right? So even if you got an email by mistake describing something about a project, you would have no idea what product they're talking about. Our design studio, which was run by Johnny Ives, also had a very strict need to enter policy. So as an intern in product design, I could go there anytime. But our CFO could not get in. He had no reason to know, what the future products might look like. We even went further. The people on the same project may not have all the information. And I'll give you an example, when we were doing the iPad. So I was on the product design hardware side. And so what we would do is, and this is during the development, not after production. So we would finish building the prototypes and then put that into a rectangular box, which is a tamper-proof. And only the screen was exposed. And then we would give this off to the software people. So they could only turn on the screen and load their operating system. So they had no reason to know what the shape of the iPad would be, what the color might be, what the finish might be. Only their job was to load the operating system and do their job. For us, we didn't know what the operating system would look like. For us, it was just a black screen that we then gave it off to the software people. And none of us knew the name of the product we were working on. Was it the iPad? Is it called an iTablet, or what is it? And we frankly, did not care. Uh, um, Everyone was focused on playing their part in building the best product humanly possible. This another way, we kept focus, and that is we organized our teams based on functions. So all the software engineers were reporting to the head of software, and then all the mechanical engineers would report to the mechanical, all the industrial designers would report to Johnny, and so on and so forth. And then for every project, we would pick the right people from each of these teams and form the whole company-wide teams. And what happened is that as you went up the management chain in your organization, the people were smarter and smarter in their subject matter expertise. What I see today in many corporates is higher you go, the dumber people become in that subject matter expertise. It's true. Even including our company. Today you are head of engineering, tomorrow you are head of sales, and even maybe a head of HR. So it's very hard to get respect, from your team when you are not the subject matter expert that you lead your team on, right? So that was, another way that Apple kept the focus, engineers focused, and built like really, really high performing teams. The next wisdom, after focus is patience, right? You need to have patience to build great products. And to talk about patience, I'll tell you a story, and I think you guys got to be patient. It's a little long story. And I think some of you also might have heard it, if you watch some YouTube and stuff. And it's about my own journey at Apple. This is in the early 2000s. I had just finished my master's at Stanford, and I was going on to the PhD program there. And I took a summer off to go to Apple to do an internship, my second internship. And there I was made part of a team that was working on the secret project. And what we were doing at that time on that secret project was building the first ever touchscreen at Apple. And this was at the time where touchscreen was those stylus, like the plastic stylus, and you have to poke like ping ping ping, one poke at a time. Imagine how difficult it would be to write your name. Forget about the emails, right? And what we were working on, is the touchscreens you see today. Just that it was very big, and we had really cool demos of map, and we could just glide our fingers and zoom onto the map, turn the map. It was just revolutionary stuff at that time. And what we did was we worked on this the entire summer, and at the end of the summer, the guys told me, this is going to be the next big thing. Why do you want to go back to school? You'll learn much more thing here, and this is the cooler thing to do. So yeah, so I dropped out of my PhD program and joined Apple full time. In a few months, we kept working on this, and we built our first prototype where we put that touchscreen into a tablet, and we showed it to Steve Jobs and got very positive feedback and a bunch of things to improve upon. And we went back after a few months, and this back and forth happened for almost 2 years. One time we were asked to change the size of the screen from 13-inch to 7-inch. He thought that if we are creating a tablet, it has to fit inside a jacket pocket. I don't know where that came from, but yes. So we spent another few months, came back with a smaller tablet. Then they're then he thought that we need to give our users an experience of having a full-size keyboard on their tablet. So we had to then increase the size minimum to 10 inches. So we went back again. Another time, it was about, should we have like a stand? Should we have a dog? How many kinds of dogs we need to have? Sometimes it was like, should it be like horizontal or vertical? Should it be read as a book, or it would be like a laptop? And so for each of these questions, we had to prototype and do a demo to Steve. And doing this, we over these 2 years, we had like hundreds of prototypes lying in our labs. And one day, one of the software engineers who had access to our tablets, he created like a user interface. And this user interface is now called a rubber band effect. And this rubber band effect is, for example, when you get to the end of the screen and the screen kind of bounces back, so this is called a rubber band. And he was, playing with different user interfaces, and he thought of showing this to Steve. He took our tablet, he built that interface on the tablet, and he showed it to Steve Jobs. And when he saw that, he really jumped out of the chair, and he said, I know what to do with this. And the next day, our project was canceled. And they asked us to give the touchscreen to another team who was working on another secret project. And 2 years later, the iPhone was launched with our screen, that we had created, over the last 2 years. This was very common. But after our tablet team got disbanded, I went on to lead a team that developed iPod Shuffle, the world's smallest MP3 player. I'm not sure if you guys have seen this. You could clip it, and it was so tiny. And then I moved to China to be a part of the product design team that we called in region. And there, I worked on many things, including MacBooks, iMac, and then, as the luck would have it, I was reunited with the tablet team when we finally decided to give it another go. And this time, we took it all the way. And I was there to see the first few units roll off the production line at Foxconn factory in Shenzhen. It's a long story. It took me 8 years, to finally realize what I had, dropped out of school for. But for Steve Jobs, he has been having this dream for more than 25 years. There's a very rare interview in 1983 where he talks about creating this amazing, he said, we are going to put a computer in a book, and this book is totally untethered. There are no wires. It will have a radio connection, and you can have everything in the world you want to learn from that book. He was talking about the iPad, right? And for him, it was the last product he launched. And when he launched iPad, he said that it was the most significant product he had ever built. So for a good product to manifest, it takes a lot of things to fall in place. If we had released iPad before the iPhone, we did not have, it would be a big failure. We had no apps, we had no app ecosystem. iPhone is the one actually paved the way to create these app stores, which then took another 5 years to be able to be put on the iPad, right? And this is true, for any idea, like for any startup idea or for your career. Everything has its time. We need to be patient, doing the hard yards, do the right thing, keep putting in the effort, with honesty and full devotion. When the time is right, it will happen. So don't worry too much about the results. Be patient, and just keep head down and keep doing it. And this brings me to the last of the wisdoms, which is the cultivation of wisdom itself, which is known as Santi, I think in Pali. And this is also the ultimate wisdom of product design. When Steve Jobs, he was close to the end of his life, he was asked by his biographer, Walter Isaacson, what was his biggest achievement at Apple. Was it the iPhone? Was it the Macintosh? Or was it the iPad? What do you guys think?
iPad.
Why? Huh?
iPad.
What is it? What he said was that it was the team that he had built at Apple, that would that is still carrying on his legacy forward long after he was gone. And you see, they did much more than just carry his legacy forward. They even made Apple the most valuable company in the world, right? I think Microsoft overtook Apple recently. So I think while recruiting, it's very important whom you let into your inner circle, right? I think this is also what he used to say, is that he said, remember, A's bring A players, B's bring B's and C's, and soon your whole organization is full of mediocre people. When I was recruited as an intern, I had two, and this is just an intern for internship, just a summer internship, not like for the job. I had two interviews on the campus. Then I had two phone interviews. Then I was invited to the Apple's campus, and I had interviews from morning till the evening. And then they offered me the internship. And when I went back to Apple during the summer for the internship, there were 100 other interns, very bright interns from all around the country. They also went through all of these things. And what they did was they vetted us thoroughly during the first internship. The ones that passed the bar, they invited them the second time in the next summer. And the ones that did well, they were offered a full-time job when they graduated, right? So they really groomed the future stars through this internship programs. And it's a lot of effort to do that. And in the times of economic downturn, I see many corporates, including the ones I know very, very closely, they cancel their internship programs. They would stop hiring fresh graduates. This is very short-term thinking, and really hurts them in the long term. At Intel, right, we make computer chips, and the main ingredient there is silicon, right? That's why it's called silicon, and the silicon comes from sand. Andy Bryant, he was a former chairman of the board at Intel. He used to say, all we start from is sand. Everything else is the value added by people. So it's really, really important to have the right people in your organizations. One way to build an amazing team is to recruit talent, like how Apple did, right? But there are superstars already within your organizations. They're lying in plain sight. These are what we call intrapreneurs. There are entrepreneurs inside your organization. They act like startup founders and try to do things different than the rest of the company. They are what we call the troublemakers, right? And we try to punish them rather than encourage them. Because I think most of the so-called managers, they don't know some of these facts, that some of the greatest, most iconic products. I'll give you just 3 examples. I think there is one thing we cannot do without in an office or during brainstorming. What is it?
Whiteboard.
What do you stick on it?
Post-it.
Post-it, yes, exactly. So the Post-it notes, was created at 3M as a result of a program where they allowed their employees 15% of their time and resources to work on technologies and products they thought were right for the company, not like someone telling them, right? So 3M was a result of such an entrepreneurial effort. Then the most successful gaming console, does anyone try to guess what? Oh yeah, PlayStation, correct. Do you play? No? When your dad is not watching? Okay. So the PlayStation is the most successful gaming console, and there was an engineer at Sony called Ken Kutaragi, and his daughter once bought, I think, a Nintendo gaming console, and he thought the sound was very, very bad, and he thought he can do much better. So he started building this gaming console using some of the resources at work, and I think he almost got fired for doing it. I think the chairman of Sony is the one who saved him, and he was also about to be fired the second time, but he still brought that PlayStation to life, which went on to become the most successful gaming console. And the third example I'd like to give, is for the Macintosh itself, the Mac, right? Everyone thinks Mac is cool. And it's not Steve Jobs who came up with the idea of Macintosh. There was a guy called Jeff Raskin, and in Steve Jobs' autobiography, he calls him an idiot or something, very bad language. He used to write product manuals for Apple's earlier products, and what he noticed was that the products were getting more and more complicated, and he thought that's not the right direction the company is going in. So he just got together a team of youngsters and built the first prototype of what became a Macintosh. He actually, saved the company. But we don't know about them, right? So, but what I'm saying is, these great people are still, in your companies. You just need to find them. And as a director of innovation at Intel, one of my key focus today is to find and enable and empower those Raskins and Kutaragis who will hopefully change our fortunes, as we are trying now to write the most exciting turnaround story in the tech history, hopefully. So, you may know what it takes to build a great product. You may also have all the resources, but if you don't have the right people, you won't be able to build great products. And that's the final wisdom. And so to recap, to build great products, start with a noble cause, be ethical in how you build your products, put in all the required efforts and the focus on the right things, be patient. All good things take time. And finally, the most important factor is assemble a great team and empower them fully. And that's the Zen philosophy of product design. Thank you all for listening, and Jai Bharataram. And yeah, I'll be happy to take questions from the organizers or the audience.